Hello, and welcome to Mind Your Head, a space for people to share their stories, talk openly and honestly about their own mental health challenges, and to give some listeners some comfort in knowing you're not alone. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we record this podcast, the Gubbi Gubbi people. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Indigenous peoples. We honour their enduring connection to the land, waters and culture, and recognise their invaluable contributions they make to our communities. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. This episode is proudly supported by True Protein. Use the code MindYourHead at the checkout to score $25 off your next order. Matty, welcome to Mind Your Head, mate. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on today. I'm a big fan of the work that you guys are doing with Blokes Advice and the Better Bloke podcast. Really appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. I'll jump in. Better Bloke is not just a podcast.
Is it not?
No, it's a fully fledged charity.
Oh, of course.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, we launched that thing, and obviously that's the face of it. It's kind of our way of talking to the world, but it's one of like 5 programs we actually deliver.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So what are the 5?
5, we'll rip in. So the podcast is the first one.
Yeah.
Pretty much a way to get people's stories out there, talk about different topics, and just talk about anything we're doing. Mm-hmm. We run a barbecue and chill event, which is going around the country now. We've done a bunch where we set up a barbecue in the park. We get guys to come down, bring the wife, bring the kids. It's not directly mental health. It's about community building. We have workplace training, which we're still working on actually building out all the training resources and programs, where it's essentially like a toolbox meeting at the start of the day, construction, mining, transport, those sorts of places where we equip guys with some tools and resources on the mental health and physical well-being side of things. Yeah. We got our mental health first responder program, which is pretty much training up guys in mental health first aid. It's first responder type stuff. So it's not about diagnosing. It's not about giving any advice. It's just about navigating conversations with guys who need it, because we got a lot of guys reaching out to us and making sure we have a framework there to point them to the right professionals and get the right help. And then the 5th one is the seminars. Yeah. So that's going to be teaming up with actual professionals, whether it be like a psychologist or some other kind of guy, like a nutritionist, a financial planner, and talk about the skills guys need to succeed in all those avenues. So there's like 7 core pillars of life, whether it be financial, whether it be family breakdown, whether it be mental health, depression, anxiety, that kind of lead guys down this road to getting into a pretty dark space. So it's getting in front of the 8 ball on those ones.
I love that, because it's being proactive around your mental health, because so often as men, you know, we wait till we hit rock bottom before we seek help or seek change. But what you're explaining then is being that proactive about it. So you're not waiting till they sort of get to rock bottom. You're equipping people with tools and ways to deal with your mental health before it becomes a problem.
The quote we started the charity off was, "Why wear a bulletproof vest when you can unload the gun?"
Yeah, I love that.
So why wait for that problem to hit you and try and minimize the damage when we can work on unloading this gun and stopping that bullet coming?
What do you think men are really searching for? Because I believe that a lot of men are searching for that connection. And when you go to the parks and you have that barbecue and you bring the family and friends, I think that connection is really important for men. What do you think men are really searching for?
Connection's a big one.
Connection's a big one?
Yeah, I'd say so. Purpose. I think a lot of guys are lacking purpose. They find themselves in ruts, whether it's providing for their family. A lot of guys feel a lot of pressure, just food on the table, making sure the kids are going to school, all this sort of stuff. And then how that manifests is them just working 60-hour weeks, doing something that they hate, and then finding themselves in this rut. I think that's a big one as well.
I love the work you're doing and all that, but I'd love to know the Matty before Blokes Advice, before all the work that you do. I'd love to know the version before all this. What kind of kid were you growing up? What was your upbringing like? And what some experiences or influences shaped your upbringing?
Yeah, I grew up in Cairns, so super kind of outdoory lifestyle. I was always into my sports. In my sort of mid-teens, you could say, I got really into my bikes. I was like racing downhill mountain biking at a national sort of level, rode motorbikes, got super into all that extreme stuff. That kind of fed into my career as a filmmaker. I was filming like all those sports, wakeboarding, skating, BMX, and that led me to jobs where I got to travel all over the world and did the travel thing. So yeah, I guess I was always chasing adventure. That would have been the first part of my life.
Yeah, sick. What messages did you receive growing up about what a real man should be or look like?
I don't think a lot.
Yeah.
In terms of direct messages. Like, obviously, I grew up with my dad, and I got to see how he does stuff. He's a very country bloke. He lost his old boy when he was quite young, so he did his best, and like, good man, but very what you would expect of a 60-year-old country man. He's closed down. He doesn't talk about a lot of stuff. He's a hard worker.
Sounds like my old man.
Yeah. And it was honestly not until a couple of years ago until I unpacked kind of how he grew up. Like, imagine he lost his old boy when he was 16, 17. He still had 5 younger siblings. And then he was going to work at 17, sending money back home to his mom on apprentice wages. Like, that's an experience that shapes a dude. And then, like, what do you expect when he's raising a son? The value of hard work was definitely put out there.
Forced upon.
Yeah. Well, and he didn't try to do it, but that's what he knew and that's what came across.
It's almost like a survival mode too. When you lose your dad like that, you have to, you're forced to step up and be that father figure for your younger siblings. Yeah. You're forced into that.
And can't knock it for him. Like, he did, it was a virtuous, honorable thing. Like, he helped the family and so you could say, he's a tough unit. That's how life shaped him.
Absolutely. Because I had a similar experience with my dad. He came on the podcast, and we always knew that he had a very troublesome childhood, but we never spoke about it. Because he never spoke about it, we were like, well, something's happened, because they never spoke about it to us when we were growing up. We never knew our grandparents. We never knew our cousins or aunties and uncles on that side growing up at all. And when I started the podcast, I think he was the 3rd or 4th guest on, and when I asked him, I said, how about you come on the podcast, you tell me everything that happened in your childhood, and I'll tell you everything that happened in mine, because sort of I went to the army straight out of school, moved out of home, and then I went through my mental health struggles, but I never spoke to anyone about it, and I was always telling mum and dad I was all good, but really I was the opposite of all good. And I said to him, I go, make a deal with you. You tell me everything that happened with you, and I'll tell you everything that's sort of gone on with me. And he was like, yep, deal. So he came on the podcast, and to his credit, like, he didn't hold anything back. He was like, is it a PG rated podcast? I go, mate, you can say whatever you want to say. There's no limits or anything like that. And he was like, okay. And then sort of he divulged everything, because we butted heads growing up. I just didn't understand why he was the way that he was. There was no like knowledge around, his upbringing. I was just like, why is he being a dick to me? Right? That's what I thought. Right. But what he went through as a child, his dad came back from the war and alcoholic, very, very abusive, it would be considered now as torture for my dad and his siblings, to the point where, one of Dad's brothers committed suicide because of it. Dad even talked about, committing suicide as a 15, 16-year-old. Like, he just didn't want to be at home anymore. He moved to Australia from New Zealand at 18 years old and pretty much never gone back. And he still carried those. He's 70 years old today, and he still carries those wounds today. But that podcast with him has been one of the biggest healing moments in my life, but within our relationship too, because I, for the first time, got to tell him what was going on inside my head. And for the first time, he told me what he went through. And while he was telling me, his childhood and everything that happened to him, in my head, I just said, I get it. Like, I finally get who you are, why you react to certain situations, why you do certain things. I get it, because you've just been in survival mode your whole life. And he was saying to me that his dad would prey on the person that would show the most emotion. So if you sort of fight back, or you you speak up, they're the siblings that get punished the most. So dad, as a survival mechanism, just showed no emotion. So that was just his survival mode. So when he became a father, he said, I wanted to change things that were most important to me. So no alcohol in the house. He didn't want anyone drinking, none of that sort of abusing alcohol at all, but there was no physical violence at all. So it was a very peaceful, safe house to be in. I guess the side effects of that was dad grew up with showing no emotion. So we grew up as kids that if you had any issues, you would either hide it or don't talk about it, because that's how we got modeled to us. So we grew up very safe, loving. My dad was always there, all the sport games. He worked so hard for us, but I don't think that emotional connection was there at all. So I grew up, if I've got an issue, if something felt wrong, I would just see what my parents would do and I watched them hide it. So I just hid it, and as a, 15, 16-year-old going through puberty, adolescence, maturing into a man, I just never spoke about any of my issues. I kept it all suppressed, kept it all silent. And then I think that's when it all became unraveling for me. So that podcast we had, it was just like dad explaining his side, I'm explaining my side, and sort of meeting in the middle somewhere. And our relationship's never been better. We hang out all the time. It's more so, I used to be a little bit fearful of dad, just as that father figure, authority figure. I would always sort of not tell him everything because it's just like, kind of felt like he was, above me. But after the podcast, it's kind of like, yeah, he's my dad still, but we're mates and we speak about all sorts of things. Our dad calls me and talks to me about his emotions, how he's feeling, and gives me hugs and kisses. And I'm just like, what is going on here? But it's one of the most beautiful things ever. Mm.
Yeah, the awareness of self definitely helps when it comes to unpacking all these things. And yeah, that's really good. I went through it in therapy, not with dad, but it's hard to see what you can't see. So it's good you were able to unpack it with him and yeah, find some common ground.
Yeah, I think you go, sorry.
Yeah, I think like what your dad tried to do was like bring up the next generation a little bit better than how he got brought up. Right. So you can't expect it to go to absolutely perfect. He 100% probably did the best he could. Obviously, there's some stuff missing.
Yeah.
And now you're the next generation that's going to bring it on to the next. So I'd like to think that we're all moving towards a place that's a lot more positive and we're all learning from stuff. Now we have so much resources around us to know that what to talk about that, yeah. I think it's good.
Yeah, I love that because we did talk about that because we spoke about that. You can't change it all in one generation. You can't change it all. And we talked about how, you pick 3 things that meant the most to you and you change those 3 things when you're a father. And then it's up to me to change 3 more things. And then, generations down the line, you obviously, like you said, you're moving the needle, you're getting better each generation. But I think those 3, I never fault dad of it. Like what you know now about mental health, about emotional health, like you didn't know that back in the 70s and 80s. Like that wasn't like a common thing that it is spoken about now. Dad just thought, all right, I'm sick of getting flogged and I don't like the alcohol abuse. I'm just going to change those things moving forward. So, yeah, it's a beautiful thing that's happened. And it's definitely brought us closer together for sure.
And times are changing. Like if you had put out that conversation you guys had in the 90s, it wouldn't have been very well received. Not like it is today.
I don't think if I had the conversation when I was in my 20s, early 20s, I would be open and aware and awareness enough to have that conversation with my dad. Like it happened at the right time. At the perfect time. Like I always think, oh, damn it, I wish we had this conversation when I was a bit younger with my dad, just so we would have skipped all those years where we were sort of butting heads. But dad was like, do you reckon at 19, 20 years old, you'll be at a position where you're open to have those conversations? I was like, nah, no way in the world. So it's happened at the right time. We're still young, that we can still, enjoy each other's company. And then I'm really looking forward to him being a granddad, just to see how, because he's a lot more softer now, like at his older age, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how he'll granddad versus how he was a dad to me, because
it'll be night and day.
It'll be night and day for sure.
He'll be the softest, most emotional. Oh, You're so cute.
That's what I reckon. I've had a few mates that come around with their young kids, and I look at Dad, and Dad's playing with them and giggling and stuff, and I was like, who is this man?
He's let all the bullshit go.
Yeah,
he's
big
old
time.
now. He doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah,
Like,
big time.
I'm going to be me.
Did you have any trouble? I know I did, sort of growing up and going to school, and seeking sort of that external validation and having friends and sort of getting that attention. And did you have any trouble trying to fit in with groups of friends or anything like that?
Maybe not fitting in with groups of friends, but I definitely went through like phase after phase of like trying to be different, trying to stand out. Like I was like a scene kid at one stage. I had the black hair all straightened, had face piercings, bit of eyeliner. So identity crisis, you could say.
Could you say that?
You definitely could.
Who did you want to be, or did you know what you wanted to be?
Look, I liked Short Stack. Do you remember them?
I do remember Short Stack.
I saw their hair. I'm like, shit, yeah. At one stage, I got a haircut like Z's.
R.I.P.
But man, it's just like teenagers. That's across the board. We're trying to figure out who we are, and I guess I was confident enough to give it a try. Looking back, horrendous. Like too much shopping at JJ's, but. So yeah, I don't know. Definitely a lot of identity crisis stuff growing up, and that, you know, that carried on into the 20s too, because you got to figure out what the hell you're actually trying to do. And
that's the struggle, I think, now is probably more so. I feel like more so than sort of when I was sort of finishing school, is that there's so much pressure on us to finish school and know exactly what we want to do, exact job you want to go into. I know kids now, there's so much pressure on like getting good grades and going to university and getting a job, that I actually kind of feel sorry for the kids that they're the kids that are like me, when they got through school and they had absolutely no idea what they wanted to do, and you kind of felt like you were failing before you even started. Did you go through any of that when you finished school, and sort of what road did you want to go down? Did you have an idea what you wanted to do for a living?
Yeah, I wanted to be a filmmaker.
Straight away?
Straight away.
I love that.
Since when I was like 14, except I did pretty well in school. So I was kind of tossing up if I should do that route or maybe law. Like I was thinking about being a lawyer. And my parents kind of liked the law idea.
I bet they did.
Yeah. And then, as with many creative sort of occupations, it's not really like you go to uni, you get your qualification, now you get your internship and you're in a corporate sort of hierarchy, a ladder, and you keep moving up. It doesn't work like that. So I did that much work for free. There was years and years of being unpaid, building up my skills, spending all my money on camera equipment, trying to figure out how the hell do you get clients and what do you charge. And I've had like 8 ABNs. 8? Yeah. I've had failed businesses. I've had businesses that just went nowhere. So there was like, a hell of a lot of times where I'm like, I think this is what I want to do, but I don't know how to do it. And that was, heaps of testing, hard times.
So how did you fall into what you do now? Are you still filmmaking? Are you still using those skills to what you're doing now?
Yeah, like we have the podcast, obviously, and it's super handy because I can graphic design, do photography. Yeah. I build my own websites. Like I can do a lot of stuff, which helps take the edge off starting something new because obviously the cost. It started way back in like when I was about 20. I was making films and I filmed with this BMX rider, Chris James, and we made this cool film and he was sponsored by a clothing company. This clothing company was like, oh, cool films, that'd be awesome. And then I started making films for them. They couldn't pay me, so eventually they gave me sort of equity in the company.
Oh, right.
Which was X% of fuck all. That led to a wholesale import business where I started bringing in blank clothing because it would sort of facilitate us to meet our minimums.
Yeah.
And then that led to meeting Blokes Advice, the guys that originally started that.
Oh, right.
I didn't start the page.
Yeah.
They, in the first couple months, started running merchandise. I was mutual friends with the guy running it. And I'm like, shit, I got warehouses full of clothes. Let me do your merch. That's how I got into Blokes Advice.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So what's your own personal journey with mental health? Because I know you're so passionate about it now, with all the programs that you do. I know it's a big part of your life. Have you had your own life experiences with your mental health journey?
Yeah, I haven't had any like crazy headline stories where it was my best friend or I found myself on a rope or something like that. I've definitely had my struggles. You'd call it ideation, not intent. Because of, probably all the ups and downs of those businesses, along with the relationships and stuff like that. So I think I have a lot of empathy for guys that are going through it because I've felt enough to understand what it feels like. But what it really was getting involved in Blokes Advice started with shirts. This was in 2016. It was quite a while ago. But then we saw thousands and thousands and thousands of men coming forward. We get 10,000 posts every single year now.
Wow.
Like, it's a lot. So the vision we have over how much hurt and struggles is going on in this sort of male sector of the Aussie community, I have a lot of empathy for. And then as things progressed over time, it became a responsibility because I have all these skills at marketing, essentially talking to a lot of people. And I have all these people with Blokes Advice. I'm like, there's a disconnect here. There's something we can do better. And that's what I've been working on for about 3 years now, is I took over Blokes Advice to push this message.
Yeah.
That started about 3 years ago.
Oh, wow. Did you ever think it would, turn into what it is now? Like, I go out to work in the mines and I see Bloke Advice stickers everywhere. That's how I got, and you see it on the back of cars and everything like that. And you see the group now, and it's just, there's so, like you said, 10,000 posts every year. Is it crazy to think how big it's gotten?
Yeah, it's insanity, but it totally makes sense because, we've been called like the last safe place on the internet. We're pretty particular with like letting guys in. There's 305,000 members in there now. Every single one of those profiles has been looked at before they come into the group.
Really?
Yeah,
every
single one. There's a massive admin team.
Yeah.
Because we are committed to trying to create a place where guys can meet on the same level.
Yeah.
So when they come forward and they say, all right, I'm having these huge struggles in my life, there's 1,000 people who have been through it and they can give solid advice that comes from a place that like resonates because these guys are relatable. If someone's telling you to do something and you click on their profile, oh, he's got 2 kids too, or he's an electrician, like it just makes you just resonate with the advice more.
Probably makes you feel like you're not alone, because a lot of the time when we're going through these dark spots, these dark places, you just think in your own head, no one will understand. I'm the only one going through this, And then as soon as you speak out and you find these men's groups, you realize, holy shit, like they may have not gone through the exact same things as me, but they're on the same level. They kind of know what I'm going through. They can relate to it, and they can give me some like real-time advice on how to get through it.
100%. If they were to post and say, I haven't seen my kids in 12 months, I'm going through a custody battle and I feel like the black dog is chasing, I don't think it's worth it. They'll get 500 comments of guys, maybe they went through it too and now it's been 3 years later and they get to see their kids and it's all worth it. Or maybe it's 10 years later and there's been all this crazy stuff happen over the courts, but it's still all good. Like they've finally got through, the kids have gotten old enough, they understand.
Yeah. So that message, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. You don't know how long the tunnel's going to be.
Yeah, but until you hear it from the guy that's just done it, that is you, it's super powerful. So I'm not surprised that it's grown so much and had that impact, because there's not a lot of other places out there like that.
I can't think of any. Like, is it the largest men's group in Australia?
It's the biggest men's group in Australia.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. By a bit.
By a long way.
Well, yeah, like I guess there's things like Men's Shed and stuff like that, but they operate on sort of community type stuff, and a lot of them have like older demographics as well. So being our home is social media, I mean, I guess it's a quick way to grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
To claim that title, but it's a
You'll
very
claim it.
it's a very powerful tool to be able to connect people.
100%.
That's what it is. It's an online pub at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So you used to go down to the pub, you'd be drinking beers, playing pool, talking shit, having a laugh, but then you had Damo next to you, and you could be like, "Fuck, mate, I got some problems at work, eh?" Guys aren't doing that anymore.
They're not.
This is what the group does.
It's that connection we were talking about before that all I think men are seeking is that connection. And a lot of us, I know I talk to a lot of sort of parents and adults where it's so easy to make friends as kids. You play sport, you're in a team sport, everyone's sort of making friends. But as you get older, everyone's got their own life going on, their own families, their own full-time jobs. I think I'm experiencing it now where I've got such a close group of friends that I've been friends with since grade 1. So we've been friends since 5, 6, 7 years old, and right now everyone's sort of not going their separate ways, but everyone's got starting families, and we're sort of moving a little bit further away from each other, all around the Sunny Coast area. But you can sense that it's just drifting a little bit.
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 34.
Yeah, sweet.
I'm 34, and I can already sense it now that there was a time not too long ago where every weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we were all down at the beach, we were playing sport, or going to the pub, we were seeing each other almost every single weekend. Where now it's like one of my best mates in the entire world. I had dinner with him last week, but before then it would have been a month or two. Whereas I used to see him every single week, and we were sort of laughing about it at dinner. We were like, "Fuck, man, how times have changed." And I was like, "Yeah, times are changing, but I think right now." I think we have to put more of an effort in than we ever have to spend time with each other, to see each other, because our group of friends are so tight that we need to be around each other, to have those times where it doesn't have to be at the pub drinking, because a lot of us actually don't drink anymore, but we need to have those times where we're still connecting like we did when we were, back, when we were kids. And there was I don't know, you've seen this video of that guy talking about getting on the beers with his mates. Have you seen it? It was over in England, and he got he went viral, got 30 million views or something. And he talks about it. He was this guy with, he would have been 40 or 50 years old, and he was on the Daily Show over in England, and he was talking about how important it is to keep those friendships going with your mates, even though, you're going into adulthood and you're getting a little bit older. It's so important to have those connections still. And he did this video. He was just like, I will always be excited when 5 of my mates are getting together and we're going on a golf trip. We're on the train, we're cracking our first beer at 9 a.m. That feeling is, I will always love that feeling. And I think all these guys message going, I've just booked a golf trip because of watching this video. And it does resonate with so many men, how important it is to keep that connection going, even though you're getting older and life starts getting a little bit busier.
Yeah, incredibly important. It's back to how we started with community.
Yeah.
It's so easy with how much shit we got going in life right now to not do that. I went through this time a couple of years ago where I didn't see my best mate for a year. He lives in Brisbane. I'm on the Gold Coast. It's only an hour and a half. I was working. I don't know. He was working, buying houses. Didn't even really think about it. We'd talk, but I never even saw him.
Yeah.
And when we worked it out, it had been a year.
Mental.
I'm like, if we do that too often, we're only going to see each other 50 more times at max? That's crazy. So, yeah, being intentional about seeing people and making those plans, whatever it is.
Putting that effort in, yeah.
Yeah, I went and bought a dirt bike last year just so I have some sort of excuse to see more people. A few of the boys have bikes. It's all right, let's do that 2-3 day trip up to Fraser. Let's go do something. Make some memories.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned before about, sort of men waiting to rock bottom for them to make change. Why do we wait? Why do you think men wait until they hit rock bottom for them to want to change or to even ask for help? I know asking for help for men is such a vulnerable and sometimes seen as a weak act, is asking for help. I think a lot of pride, a lot of ego, a lot of stereotypes come in when men actually break down and ask for help. Why do you think, men wait so long?
I think a lot of men think it is virtuous to carry weight for other people, especially their family. I think they think it's them being strong, and yeah, there's value in that, which to a degree there is. Like, it's definitely a good thing to take load off the people you love. But a lot of guys will do that for too long, and the load on their back will get too much, and they'll reach this point without really knowing that they were about to get there, and they've carried too much of a load for too long, and that's when they get to this rock bottom. But I think it comes often out of a place of trying to be strong. But what we're trying to do with, breaking down stigmas and getting people talking is understanding it is strong to do that, but it's not weak to ask for a hand. If you're on the ground, everyone's going to give you a hand up, like especially the boys around you.
And it's interesting because if your mate's going through something and you find out, your first thing is, why don't you ask for help? I'm always there for you. But when it's you think you're a burden. You think you're the burden, but if your mate's going through it, you're the first one to be, "Oi, mate, I'm here for you." But I don't know why we don't think that about ourselves.
I had this conversation a couple days ago with this lady that I've been talking to. She's part of one of the sort of bike clubs over in WA, and she is the one that organises all these charity rides, Christmas toy runs for the kids, black dog rides, raising awareness. She helps everyone in the club with sort of them going through tough times. And I tried to reach out to her a couple of times, and eventually she got back to me. She said, "I've been going through some battles myself. Like, I'm sorry I haven't, been talking to you." And I'm like, "I'm sure you got a good unit around you to lean on." And she's like, nah, I'm kind of just doing it, me and my dog. And I'm like, all these boys around you, if they were going through a tough time, how much would you want them to reach out to you? And then what would it look like if you reverse that situation? And even her, that helps all these people in mental health, said, "I'd never thought about it like that."
Wow.
I'm like, reach out.
Yeah.
They got you.
Yeah.
I promise, if you got them and they're good blokes, they got you.
Yeah. Has it changed?
She said she'll reach out.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Do you think society has failed men when it comes to emotional education? Because I know all the initiatives you do, a lot of it's educating men around mental health. Do you think society has failed us?
I don't think they've failed. I think it could be done better.
Yeah.
For sure. But that's the same in anything. Nothing's ever going to be done perfectly. I think everyone's so tied up in thinking that there's one way to do something, which it's not true. Like, there's so much variety in the type of blokes. The way you're going to talk to an inner city Melbourne guy is not the same as you're going to talk to a 5'4" boy out of Gladstone. It's not.
That's so true. I never thought about it like that.
I don't care.
Yeah.
There's academic research that says language and tone is important in healthcare. And that's the same whether we're talking about hospitals up in Darwin. They teach their staff how to speak with Indigenous people, right? Because the way they deal with healthcare is different to other people. That makes sense. Yeah. That's fine. Cool. Why do we not do that in mental health?
Yeah.
To a degree, we do, but a lot of places are too scared of doing a gendered approach. So I think in that sense, some places are failing.
Because I've thought about that the way that we talk about men's mental health is different to the way we talk about women's mental health, in terms of like the language that you use, and even the way that I speak about it with some of my friends. I talk about it with my partner, and sometimes she's like, "Oh, I've never really would explain it like that." And I'm like, I never really thought about that either, but that's just how we sort of talk to each other, that men can receive it in a different way, in a more healthy way, in a better way.
Yeah, for sure. And that's largely one of the reasons we've come under fire, is because of the language we use when talking about mental health. Like, people on TikTok complain about everything, but, people will say you shouldn't use the word black dog because you're creating stigma around depression by not naming it what it is.
Okay.
The term black dog was coined by Winston Churchill way back because it did make it easier for him to speak about that, to other people, it did almost reduce the stigma in of itself. So people are just too scared of the words rather than what they actually mean.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they don't understand it. And I don't blame some of these people if they're getting mad at the way we do things because they don't understand it. But don't tell me it doesn't work.
I've always asked my guests, what are your 3 non-negotiables for living a healthy and full life? For me, it's movement, community, and good nutrition. I've learned that what you fill your body with plays a massive role in how you feel physically and mentally. That's why I use True Protein. They're an Aussie brand doing things the right way. Clean, natural supplements with no artificial additives or fillers. Everything's made in-house in Sydney's northern beaches using the highest quality ingredients sourced from around the world. Whether it's supporting energy, improving focus, or reducing fatigue, their products genuinely help me show up better every single day. And just like Mind Your Head, they live by values I stand by. Be true, be you, and take care of your whole self. So what would you say to those people that write off sort of Blokes Advice that have so much sort of judgment and scrutiny towards it? What would you say to them?
Depends what they're complaining about.
Okay.
We've done a hell of a lot of good in this world.
I know you have, yeah.
Yeah, it's a positive force in the world. I understand we've offended some people and we definitely toe the line on the comedy side of things because we do a lot of funny shit. That comes from a place of comedy. So that's a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
When it comes to actually helping blokes, I make no apologies for talking to blokes how they need to be spoken to. And just because someone else doesn't get it, that's not my problem. If they're offended, that's offense taken, not offense given.
100%.
So I'll have conversations with people all day long.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, nice.
So a lot of the times, if there's a specific person carrying on about what we're doing, I'll send them my phone number.
Do you really?
Yeah, all the time.
Do they call?
Not usually. Some of them do.
Yeah.
And like the biggest ones, the big influencer activist types, they're just doing it for clicks.
Oh, right.
But like people that are genuine about it and want to understand what we're doing and are interested in how they can help me make more change. For instance, a mental health nurse, she's worked on the front line for 10 years and she reached out and she's staunch feminist, like rallies in the streets, help set up like homes for domestic violence things, all great stuff. I love it. Rallied for abortion clinics. As much of a person as you would think wouldn't like Blokes Advice as possible, we're great friends.
Really?
Yeah. I gave her my number. We chatted for an hour. She ended up coming over my house. We sat down for a couple more hours. She's providing me some of the stuff she's learned because she's an actual professional. Yeah. I'm not pretending to be a professional. I'm putting out other people's messages. She's teaching me how she recognizes signs, assesses risks, all this stuff. And that all came out of having a conversation about, wait, what are you boys actually doing here?
And that's the thing, out of curiosity rather than judgment.
Yeah.
You know, rather than constantly judging and scrutinizing, just be curious, ask questions and be open to different answers.
Well, don't critique without advice. So don't say you're wrong without saying maybe you should do it this way.
Yeah.
Just because you're saying, I don't like that, stop it, cancel them, start a petition.
Yeah.
Like, there's no positive outcome. And I'm out here busting my ass trying to build something that's going to make a massive change. And you're in a TikTok comment thread.
I think it's just like that. Do you think it's like that that cancel culture that's just so...
It's 100% cancel culture.
Like if one person just loves to jump on board and before you know it, the crowd's on it and then it's that cancel culture just coming in.
Yeah, everyone's different. Like I understand there's people that have had very heavy experiences. So especially like if the jokes offend them, like I understand that that's offending them. Or potentially they've been in a series of really poor relationships and they do have a terrible outlook on men, which does happen as well. That happens on both sides. I understand their point of view, but it's a narrow-minded view of the full situation.
Talking about heavy experiences, I'm sure there would be, hundreds of messages that come in that would affect you deeply and you'd probably think about for days. How do you get through those times that it doesn't affect your own mental health?
Look,
does it come at a cost?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. I'm pretty good most of the time. There's just like a couple that come through and
stays with you.
They sit with you for a while. I do my best to understand that no one can guarantee an outcome. No mental health professional, no therapist, no counselor, no drug is going to be 100% of a fix. So I can't expect that on myself. What I can do is try and get close to that, as close to that as I can. And yeah, you're just not going to win every single one.
Yeah.
And the unknowing is the hard bit too. On social media, we might get a message at 3:00 in the morning. I've drunk 2 bottles of Jack Daniels. I'm out driving my car as fast as I can and I don't give a fuck anymore. That's it. I wake up 6:00 in the morning and I get this message. Is this bloke still here? I don't know.
Fuck.
Yeah. So those sort of ones are heavy. But everything we're trying to do is stopping guys getting to that stage. So I know I'm doing the right thing. I just can't expect to be the 100% solution.
What do you do for your own mental health? I know you love going to the park and playing with the dogs. Your dogs are pretty cool. How do you keep your mental health in check?
Yeah, I got a lot of people around me that I talk to. I'm not currently in therapy, but I've done it in the past a bunch of times, gone through some harder times when I've recognized it's sort of slipping. Like that's what I talk about all day. So you got to practice what you preach.
Yeah.
So yeah, just keeping myself moving forward, reminding myself of what I'm trying to achieve and why. But
let's talk about the podcast.
The potty.
The potty. How's it going? How did you get started with it? Was it always, on your mind that you wanted to do a podcast, and it was?
Kind of. I've done, like as a filmmaker, I've done a few podcasts before.
Yeah.
I ran one for a skate company for a while.
Yeah.
Did one in COVID just as a excuse to learn how to talk on camera. So I'm familiar with the podcast format.
Yeah.
And then when we started the charity, we're like, we need a way to talk to people. So the podcast realistically is the best way to talk at length about complex issues. It was going to allow us to share the stories of other men. So it seemed like a bit of a no-brainer. So that's why we started with that. And at the start, that was the first program we ran, which is why people think it's a podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot more going on.
Is there an episode or there's a story from a guest that has stayed with you?
I think my favorite is Angry Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you familiar with him?
Very familiar. Yeah.
So, man, such a good dude.
Yeah.
Such a good dude. And he's actually released a documentary about his whole mental health struggle. He was a star AFL player, but plagued by injury. He never really got to make it happen. And then all his dreams getting crushed really sat on him heavy, and he carried that for decades to the point that, like, he opened up on the podcast, like he tried to take his own life.
Wow.
And I think the learnings of a man over a space of 30 or 40 years who's been through the highest ups, he's faced some of the biggest things, he's done marriage, kids, like everything, spoke about his use of antidepressants, spoke about the suicide attempts. And he's got himself to a place that's stable. That to me was a fucking good one.
What does the term better bloke mean to you? What is a better bloke?
A better bloke.
Yeah.
Right? So there's so many things that make up being a bloke.
Yeah.
Right? So if we can make incremental adjustments on each of those things, whether it's we're all being a little bit more honest, we're all being a little bit more thoughtful or courteous, whether it's we're physically a little bit healthier, maybe we're going to gym, maybe we're eating better, all those things make up being a better bloke. And if you can move them all 1%, you're going to be feeling way better.
I think that's such an important message, because a lot of the time we like to, as men, go all in, change everything at once, and try to, be a completely different version of us tomorrow. I struggled with that big time when I was going through a lot of stuff, was that I just wanted to be fixed straight away and be all good tomorrow, and didn't understand that's going to be a journey. And what I realized about good mental health is that it's not a destination, it's a direction. So instead of thinking, I'm going to be good 2 years' time, tomorrow, whatever it is, just think of it as that my mental health is a direction. So what am I moving forward? Am I doing everything possible to put myself in a good mental health state every single day? Some days you slip, sometimes you're not as good as you were yesterday, but as long as you keep moving forward, I think that's all that matters.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
And understanding delayed gratification applies to mental health as well.
Yes.
So like you go to gym and you start lifting weights, you're not going to see those muscles for a little while. It's no different with the mental health. But if you start making little changes to maybe how you're dealing with your finances, maybe what you're eating, maybe going for a walk, maybe making sure that you say something nice to your missus every morning, over time you're going to see a difference.
I love that.
Small changes. I had Blair, who is one of our mutual friends. He came on the podcast, and I asked him about how we started, Through Strangers' Eyes, and he said to me, we always have that voice inside of us that says like, what if, I start this and someone's going to laugh at me, or what happens if I start this and people are going to judge me, or people are going to think I'm an idiot. He says, we're so often to think of the negative all the time. When we start something new, we start something that we never done before. And he goes, I'd love for people to, instead of think of the negative, think of the positive. What happens if I start this and it's the best possible thing that I could ever possibly do? And it really hit home with me, because when I wanted to start this podcast, those negative thoughts were the first thing that came to my head. Where, what if I get laughed at? What if no one watches? What happens if, so-and-so thinks I'm an idiot? And when he was sitting there saying that, he goes, what happens if this could be the best possible thing you've ever done? It really affected me, and it really hit home with me that, what happens, what's the best case scenario? Why do we always think of the worst case scenario? Have you ever sat across from a guest and, they've told a story that's really hit home to you, that you really needed to hear it? Good question. I've teared up on the potty before, so.
Have you?
Yeah, so could be one of those ones.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just people have been through some terrible shit.
Yeah, and gone through the other side.
Yeah, gone through some other side.
Yeah.
Jimmy Judge?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, man, like that guy.
Yeah.
He said when he was 20 years old, he was convinced in his own head by 25, he'd either be dead or in jail. And that was his reality. And like, I could relate to that. I didn't think I'd be in jail or dead maybe, but I didn't have the full outlook on what my life, I didn't really give a fuck.
The future, yeah.
Like, I really didn't care. When, especially going through all the businesses at the start, and like, I remember I used to not wear a seatbelt ever, because I didn't care.
Really?
If something happened. I didn't want to do anything to myself.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't really give a shit if it did.
Yeah, right.
Which is sad. Like,
yeah.
But at the time, that was just it for years. Yeah.
How did you get through that?
Well, I didn't see it as a problem, because I was like, I don't know. Looking back, I wouldn't say I was depressed. I just didn't have hope for a future. And that's like, we need hope.
Sometimes that's all we've got is hope.
Yeah. I wasn't even depressed. I just didn't really care about the future enough. Like, I wasn't really thinking forward to, fuck yeah, life when I'm 40, it's going to be so good, white picket. Nah.
Is it changed now? Because I remember going through that stage as well when I was playing rugby and doing drugs. I found that drugs was the only thing that was my escape from all the head noise going on. It was, people do drugs to sort of go out and party and go to raves or whatever it is. I did drugs to be at peace, to be silent. I can finally, think or not even think at all. I could just sit there and be like, yes. Like, it almost like put me to sleep. It was that soothing and euphoric for me that I knew that it was bad. I knew that the habit was never going to last, but I was too afraid to do the work to figure out why I'm feeling like this. So I made a call that when I was about 20, I was going to keep playing footy and keep doing drugs. And as soon as I couldn't keep doing that, I was just going to end my life. So I didn't think I was going to make it out of my 20s. I was like, as soon as I sort of hit 29, 30, that was just going to be it for me. So I didn't care about my body. I didn't care that I was getting injured. I didn't care that I was playing injured. I didn't care about how, like, driving without the seatbelt. Like, I was driving my life without the seatbelt, just thinking I didn't care what would happen, because I know that when I stopped playing footy, it was also all going to end for me. And I felt the same thing. I had no future. I was like, I won't be a dad. I won't be a husband. I won't even make it to my 50s. Now, getting through the other side of that dark tunnel, that's all I think about is being a father, and living, having grandkids and being around my family. And I look back at those times and I really, even talking about it in public is still very uncomfortable for me, because it brings up old emotions and feelings. But I kind of look back and I kind of really feel sorry for that Elliot, that period of Elliot where he thought life wasn't worth living, that he was so lost and consumed by his own thoughts and emotions that he didn't want to make it out of his 30s or out of his 20s.
Do you think that had something to do with not having enough things around you to be able to envision that future?
I thought I was so broken that I couldn't be fixed, that I was never going to hold a relationship. I was never going to be able to survive without drugs. And rugby was my identity, was my purpose that we talked about. That's why I felt needed. I felt useful. I felt important. I was getting that attention that I was craving. I was always craving attention. And when I played rugby, I was just like, I felt like, oh yeah, I'm the man. That's what I felt like. It almost became an ego thing where I was addicted to playing footy because I got that validation. I got that attention.
It's 100% an ego thing.
Yeah.
And ego's not that bad of a thing. You just got to keep it in check. So the minute you mention ego, it's not bad.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I think I was playing footy. It used to be playing footy for the love of it. But now it got to a point where I don't really like it that much anymore. I don't know why I keep playing this, but every time I do play, I get that sense of like attention.
Yeah. It's what you know.
Yeah. You need it. I kind of like felt like as a man, I guess you kind of feel needed. You kind of feel wanted. I want to feel useful. And I didn't feel like that outside of playing rugby. And then once I was playing, I was all good. But when I stopped playing, all these emotions and feelings and thoughts that I couldn't hide anymore, they were just rushing to the surface. I didn't know. It was like a puzzle inside my head. I couldn't solve the puzzle. I was just like, where do I even start? But the only thing that silenced all that and gave me a bit of peace was drugs. So then that became the cycle of playing rugby, drugs. And then I was just like, I thought I was in such a dark and deep hole that there was no way for me to get out of it. I've just done it for almost a decade of my life. That was the cycle. And I thought I was so deep in the hole that there's no way I could get out of it. I've just done it for so long that I'm almost a lost cause. So why don't even, I should just, keep going harder, because there's no way out. That's what I thought for so long.
It's not uncommon. And what you said about purpose, and like, I think a lot of young men, and it's not completely unjustified, maybe they're 18 and they're like, I got no value. And kind of they don't, right? Because like what they have to offer is themselves, and they haven't had the time in life to become an adult, and whether it's get skills, get some emotional intelligence to be a good partner, a good worker, a good whatever. So that's when they start feeling lost, and maybe then they start getting a bit reckless because there's no hope for a future. They can't see that. So I think as life progresses and you start growing as a person, you start saying, oh, wait, okay, I do have some value here. You had it just in rugby, but you didn't have it in other aspects of your life. So once you started developing that, maybe, okay, I can see this future of what's going to go on in life here. But until you actually put in some work to do that, you're kind of riding blind.
I was riding blind for sure. And I think I realized like I had to sort of forgive myself and know that I offer way more than just playing rugby. I think that was a lot of me to get over. Was when I stopped playing, it's just like, well, who am I without it? And I think there's a lot of like, I am a beautiful person and a person that holds value without the rugby side of it. And which is funny now because I always thought I'd be into rugby. Now I can't even, I don't even hardly even watch a game of footy, whereas that used to be my whole life, where now it's kind of the opposite. And I think I started the podcast, I've always been very stubborn in terms of if someone tells me I can't do something, that's like, oh, all right, well, I better go do it then because I've got to like prove them wrong, prove me right because I can do something. And I had a couple of friends one night where I was voicing that I wanted to start a podcast, right? And they jokingly, never meant it to be sinister or mean, but they jokingly laughed and said, what would you talk about rugby? And they didn't know that was a trigger for me because I always thought I had more to offer than rugby, but that was almost my identity. Everyone knew me as Elliot rugby player. So when they sort of laughed and said, what would you talk about fucking rugby? In my own head, I was like, I'm going to fucking show you. I'm going to fucking show you wrong. Like, and that was almost like I needed that push off the blocks to actually get started.
Yeah. And this is kind of what Blokes Advice is.
Yeah.
Because that interaction is like, people are like, oh, it's negative. He's doing it out of spite. Oh, that guy put shit on him. No, that's how we do things, right?
It is.
It's banter. It's camaraderie. It's like a bit of a nudge to get after it. And fuck, we did it.
We did it, exactly. That's what I mean. Because I always think, like, am I doing it to prove them wrong? Am I doing it to prove me right? Like, why do I need, like, a push? But I think, like, that's just the banter. I'm like, I don't think I would have started if they didn't say that smirky little, like, joking comment because, I wouldn't have that sort of motivation or that fire to be like, oh, well, I am going to start something, actually.
Yeah, I love that. I love anyone that pushes themselves into the unknown.
Yeah.
You don't need to see the whole path. You just need to see where the next step is.
Yes.
And then you'll figure out the next one.
Yes.
Happens every time. I got so many mates that have done like crazy cool stuff, and every single one of them didn't know what they were fucking doing. Didn't know. They figured it out along the way.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it's ended up just changing their life.
Best thing ever.
Best thing ever.
Do you think that that's what stops a lot of people from trying new things is that they try to picture what it's going to be like in the future, or they try to plan it out perfectly to have every perfect step rather than just taking that first leap?
100%. Had a chat with a good friend recently. He calls me up when he's got a brand new business idea. And what was it? Oh, he was trying to tell me about this business he was doing, and then he skipped like 2 years down the track to what it could be. And then that was the reason he wasn't doing it, because there was going to be this big problem up there. I'm like, bro, just start, man. Like, if you got to that stage, you've achieved a lot. Like, given what you told me, it's going to be hard to get there.
Yeah.
Just start and you'll figure it out.
See what happens.
Don't let some problem that's not even a problem, a situation that hasn't even materialized yet. Don't let that be the reason to not do it. And a lot of people do that.
100%. I felt like my whole life I was always running away from fear. So fear like ruled my life. Like, even though I've reached the heights I did playing rugby, and maybe some people from the outside looking in will say, oh, Elliot's, he's done so great. I think for me, I felt like I probably gave it 80%. I felt like I was always too scared to see what my potential could be. I don't know if that's a fear of failure or a fear of success. I haven't really got to the bottom of why I only gave it 80%. I always felt like, man, I could have gone better. I could have, I left a lot in the tank, and fear, a lot of the time, fear ruled my life. Like, I always was running away from fear, whether it be in relationships or friendships or, any struggles or any discomfort. If something scared me, I'd be like, whoop, out of there, gone straight away. I don't want nothing to do with it. And I started really resenting that version of me. Even getting older and wanting to become a dad, I wanted to be a good role model. And I was always thinking, like, is this always going to be something that you're going to run away from? Is fear always going to be the thing that's going to rule your life? And when I stopped playing rugby, I always was very creative, but I didn't think I was a creative person. But I always looked up to people that were, musicians or painters or, people that could, make things with their hands or with their minds. And I was always super jealous of that. People that were, could just hear music and play. And I'm just like, fuck, like I wish I could be something like that. And I remember like thinking, I really want to be an actor. I love movies. I love like reading a script. I love, getting into a character. So I did acting lessons down in Brisbane, and I found myself super outside my comfort zone with all these other actors that have gone to acting school or have grown up in drama class. And I'm just some, ex-footy player that's come in. And I remember like thinking, man, I am so out of my depth here. I had to go up and do a monologue, and I'm like, what is going on here? And then 2 weeks later, he gave me a script, and he's like, you've got to prepare for this, and you've got to get up and do a 5-minute monologue in front of the class. And me just brushing it off. Oh yeah, I'll be sweet. And then 2 weeks later, I'm up in front of the class, in front of like 30 people on a stage. And I remember like getting the sheet, because we got sort of paper that you can sort of read off and that sort of thing. And I remember just looking around going, how the fuck did I get here? Like, what am I doing? But at that same moment, I did it, I would have mumbled my way through it. People sort of saying you did great and that sort of thing. But I remember driving home thinking that was the first time that I can remember knowing how scared I was and knowing how fearful I was, but I did it anyway. And that was the first indicator for me to realize that fear is such a limit we place on ourselves. And a lot of the time on the other side of fear is growth and improvement and success. And that was the very first moment where I thought, hang on a second, like if I've just did that when I was so scared and I was so fearful, what else can I do that scares me? And it almost became an indicator for me to do things instead of for me not to do things. Whereas before, like I would just run away from it. Now, when I get that little bit of fear in my belly and that little bit of anxiousness, I'm always like, ooh, maybe this is something that I need to be doing. So now it's like an indicator for me. One of the biggest indicators for me when I started the podcast, because I was like, that scares the shit out of me. And I was thinking, oh, if it scares the shit out of me, maybe it's something that I need to dive into more. And it's been like one of the biggest blessings that I've had in my life so far.
Fear's a big limiting factor for people.
Yeah.
I think to get over fear, you need the confidence to push through. The only way you get confidence is by doing the thing and having the proof you can do it.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you're constantly shying away from doing the thing that scares you, you're not going to have the confidence. What you did, you pushed through it once, right? So now you have a little stack of proof that you were able to do something that scared you. So next time something scares you, there's a little bit of confidence there.
Yeah.
Right? You can
exactly.
do it again.
Yeah.
And that builds and compiles. And like you said, it being almost a signal of a reason to do something. I like to think of when something gets hard or scary, that potentially this is the point where a lot of other people stop.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's a marker in the road. People are stopping here because this is hard. If I can do this, if I can get through this, it's going to just push me a little bit further along in that direction I want to do. So just on that basis, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I love that you said that, because Jordan, my partner, said that to me because we were talking about the financial burden of you would know this, starting a podcast and the money getting spent into hiring studios and doing the editing, and there's so much sort of investment you got to do money wise. And we were talking about, we've got a wedding coming up, we've got a honeymoon coming up this year. Obviously, want to keep doing the podcast, releasing every week, juggling that, and obviously paying off the holidays, saving for things. It's, I work in the way in the mines, which is such a blessing in terms of your financial support. But, Jordan was like, all right, we've got to do a budget. We've got to do this, sort of watching all the money in and out.
The life budget and the line of podcast is quite fucking big.
She was like, oh, and I was getting stressed because I didn't realize before I started working in the mines that financial security was something that was really important to me, in terms of, making sure that the house, the bills, everything's sort of covered for. So being in the mines, it's been great because I've actually since working, it seems like a luxury, but working in there, I've never worried too much about bills getting paid because I've just had the sort of the money coming in. It's been great. I've got no kids. That obviously is a plus in terms of worrying about sort of money. So Jordan's like, we might have to go on a bit of a budget this year. right? And I was like, fuck, this is getting hard. And Jordan's like, yeah, this is when most people quit. So, because I was thinking about maybe we should take a break from the podcast just so we can save enough for this wedding. And she was just like, no, you're not taking a break. You're still doing it every single week. You're still releasing episodes, but it's meant to be hard. Like, this is when most people sort of give up and quit. We've got this. We'll just do a budget. We'll keep going. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, this is actually when, this is the turning point for me, when it would have been so easy to stop for a little bit, and then try to get going again.
Let's call that season 1, and we'll come back with season 2.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's maybe go to fortnightly.
We were thinking about that. That's exactly what
of course you are. Of course you are. Yeah, because they are the solutions when, you can't get it done.
Hard, yeah.
And it's way harder than anyone thinks to actually produce these things properly.
100%.
So, yeah.
What struggles do you face still to this day?
A lot of imposter syndrome.
Do you?
Yeah, a lot of imposter syndrome.
Why is that?
Because I have very high standards for myself, and I keep moving the goalpost. Like, if I had told myself I had achieved what I've achieved today, I'd be like, you fucking legend. But now I'm here, like, I'm like, oh, well, here's the next thing. So I constantly find myself asking myself and having to check myself, like, who the hell do you think you are to be trying to, like, build this e-commerce thing, build a charity, like, do all these different things. Like, I'm just creating events in places all around the country.
Yeah.
For what reason? Because I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's what it is, because I think it's a good idea. So I need to really, like, work with my own feelings, my own mind, to make sure what I'm doing I believe in fully and it's right. So there's a lot of questioning myself that happens in that whole process.
It's like that saying that the top of one mountain is the bottom of another mountain. So it's so easy for us. I do the same thing. It's so easy for us to achieve something and then sort of move on to the next thing.
Oh, story of my life.
Is it really?
Story of my life.
Yeah.
I'm seldom happy at achievement. I think it was Chris Williamson said the curse of a overachiever is that you're good at things. So let me get this right. The curse of a high achiever is that you win. So winning becomes satisfactory and anything less becomes a failure.
Yes.
So if you win, null of emotion.
Yeah. That's the bare minimum, is you win.
The bare minimum is that you win.
Yeah.
Is that you get it done. Anything less, if you get almost there, it's a failure.
Yeah.
And I feel that.
You do?
Yeah, a lot.
How do you get through it?
Win.
You must win a lot then.
Win. Might not win the first time round, but I'll win.
Yeah. What's one truth about men's mental health that people still don't want to hear?
Even the men that say it's not weak to speak and are at the forefront of this movement go into all those old school mentalities once it's their time to talk.
Very true. And that's the thing that we're trying to break, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. But I've seen the most open guys, the most emotionally intelligent guys not do it when it's their time.
What do you think that is?
Because it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
Like, no one said it's easy, but we see the way that's received by people. It's still not that awesome. Like, there's guys that do plead for help and the help's not always there or right. I think there's still massive leaps to be made on the government side of mental health in this country. And I think they definitely need to do a better job with men. Definitely.
100%. Something that I really became aware of when I hit 30, that I realized that I was very emotionally immature. even as a 28, 29-year-old, looking back on it, I was still such a kid in terms of dealing with my emotions, regulating my own emotions. And I look back on those moments or that time and I kind of feel a little bit embarrassed by it, by that person. You know, I put so much pressure saying, you know, you're a 28, 29-year-old, you should be a man, you should be an adult, you should know these things. But looking back on it, I was such a little boy. How do we teach our young men, our boys, to grow into emotionally mature men? Tough question.
It's a tough question. I think everyone has their own journey, so we can't like put any time frames on it.
Yeah.
I think guys need to decide for themselves when it's time, right? And that happens at all different stages in life, usually following some terrible adversity.
Usually forced upon.
Usually it's maybe there's a divorce, maybe their father's died, maybe they've hit rock bottom with the drugs. Often it's forced, which would be good if we could find a way to work around that. What was the question before that or the start of that? Because I had another thought.
Oh, did you? The question was, how do we teach boys to go into emotionally mature men? But I told my story of being, not regulating it, not knowing how to regulate my own emotions. So that was like my whole 20s, even like teens and 20s. I was growing up like just a little boy. You know, even an adult, I was just a little kid.
I got it. So I think something that society is not very good at is accepting that people change, especially men. So you've had guys like Todd Carney on here who fucking menace back in the day for sure, and he's still paying for those sins.
He is, yeah.
100% he is, yeah. There's a lot of guys that might have been all those things that people are calling toxic. They might have drunk too much. They might have not had the emotional communication skills to really voice their feelings. And then when they finally start going down that journey, because it's a process, like you really got to try and learn these things, they get slapped down a little bit. And that's the opposite of destigmatization. That's telling them that this is not the right journey. And I think that's a big fuck up from society, not allowing men to change.
Almost keeping that's their identity, because I know for Todd, when I spoke to him, I didn't want to mention all the sort of mishaps that he's been up to, or what happened in the past, because I know that he's trying to change and that's not him anymore. So I actually didn't want to bring it all up. But when I was telling to sort of people and other sort of people that have commented on it, they go, "Are you going to talk about the bubbler?" And I'm like, no. But I'm also thinking, how sad is that? Because Todd was such an incredible rugby player. Like, Dally M, best player in the comp. That overshadows how good he was at rugby. And I feel so sorry for him.
It's overshadowing him helping kids and all this shit now.
Exactly. And I had people comment on that post saying, I loved the old Todd Carney when he was getting on the piss more. And I'm just like, man, he's doing so much amazing work with kids now, all the coaching and the mentors, the mentoring program that he's got with Mitchell Pearce. He's doing so much good in the society, in the communities now, that he's still remembered from what he did in the past.
Yeah.
And it's just like you said, society just holds you to that one identity and you can't change.
So one of my recent episodes was with Adam from Panel House. Now, he's a guy that is very politically incorrect and makes some ludicrous jokes, right? He's annoyed a lot of people. So we got him on to talk about the stuff behind the jokes and also his life. He opened up very vulnerably about postnatal depression. Not spoken about a lot by guys. Very few male podcasts will sit there and talk about postnatal depression. It affects both parents. It's a thing. It's real, right? He got slammed for talking about how he's a narcissist for not showing empathy and care and love towards his child. He got accused of being like a DV assault dude because he showed possession over his partner because there was a rift with the kid. I'm like, this is a man that's literally just jumped on, opened up about his mental health, and you're telling him he's wrong and then actually insulting him. That's the problem. They're building the stigma by doing that. And honestly, fuck them.
Mm.
Like, no time for it.
That's the society we live in at the moment, and that's like the thing that we're trying to change is that stigma. And
Yeah, but it's so hard because the people doing it are often the ones pushing it. Like they're saying, we want men to be better. We want men to talk.
Yeah.
All right, here's a man talking. No, fuck that dude.
Yeah.
No, fuck you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What do you hope a young man listening to this takes away from your story?
I'd like to think that like you and I have both sort of started our journey of finding ourselves and being who we want around about 30, right? Hopefully we can start getting guys to look at it a little bit sooner. I think there's got to be a level of maturity to start. So I don't think we can start it completely in schools.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully they start looking at themselves.
And I think about that, wanting to be a father and not wanting my son to go through the same things that I went through, okay? And I'm thinking to myself, how do I, I'm already thinking about this stuff already. How do I say, I figured out who I was, or even the journey of who I wanted to be at 30. I'm thinking, well, how do I get my son to do that at 20? You know, would I be open to do that at 20? If I'm a 20-year-old, would I be open to all that sort of change and awareness at a 20-year-old?
Yeah, well, maybe he's not going to get the right answer, but what you could do is provide him a safe enough space that he can explore it, right? Maybe he can make the fuck-ups earlier so he can learn from them earlier. Because I don't think you can not fuck up.
No. And that's the thing, like, I've got to realize that the fucking up was the growth.
Yeah.
Was the learning. You know, if you don't fuck up, if you don't make mistakes, I think that's when there's no friction, or you don't make those improvements, and you don't have that self-reflection. I think that the mistakes and the fuck-ups are crucial. They're needed. Like not everyone wants them, but they're the most crucial part of the journey is the downs, isn't it?
Teachable moments.
Yes.
Yeah, you learn more from your losses and your wins by far. And I'm massive on that. Face adversity head on. You come out the other side a better person.
What are you most proud of? Not professionally, but personally.
It's a great question. I think I'm proud of when I was a teenager, I wanted to live an adventurous life. I wanted to travel. I wanted to do cool stuff. I didn't want to get into some daily grind, boring ass office job. I never did. And yeah, for the last decade, I've stacked up so many memories of doing some crazy things with crazy people, achieved a whole bunch of shit along the way. I'm proud of my 20s, you could say.
Yeah. That young version of Matty will be proud of the man that you are today.
Yeah. Because he had no idea how it was going to come to fruition. And somehow it did.
Like we're going back before, like you never know what the end's going to be like, but you just take that first step.
Got to start.
Yeah, you got to start.
You got to start, and then you got to eat shit for however long it takes. For me, honestly, like I earned almost no money till I was 25. Like it was just pain after pain after pain.
It's just ever going to end.
And then it just went, boom. All that stuff you've learned, all that stuff that you've built up, world's your oyster.
Worth it.
Yeah, it all paid out later. So delayed gratification again, that comes in so many forms.
The future of Blokes Advice and Better Bloke Project. What do you see yourself?
Better Bloke is going to continue growing, and we're going to get so many more people involved to roll out these programs. It's been going a bit over 12 months now, so largely it's just me and Rob doing most of the work. We've had people like that mental health nurse, we've got some psychologists, nutritionists helping us along the way, but I need a lot of people on board to help the mental health first responder plan. We need to be running more events more often. So kind of like a men's shed type thing, that barbecue and chill. I want them running every weekend all around the country. Opportunities for guys to get off the screen, come out, have a yarn, meet some new faces. So just big growth there without losing sight of we're doing it in a way that's different to how other people are doing it. We're talking to guys on their level. We're meeting guys where they are. and then Blokes Advice, I think that's not going to change. Like, it's changed from when it was super hectic back in 2016, but we've found this nice level over the last few years where we joke around, we have a laugh, we entertain people, and we provide a space where guys can come in and do the same thing. Have a laugh, have some banter, talk some shit, and then when shit hits the fan, they're already bonded and the boys are going to help.
I love that. And I think there's definitely a space in the market to come out and talk to the mining industry. I know that there's the mining lifestyle in itself is such a brutal lifestyle, especially if you've got, you know, family problems at home, that I know a lot of guys that I work with that are struggling, you know, and then you sort of get to work and you're there for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long it is, and no one talks about it.
No,
Yeah.
and I'll paint the picture of how we do stuff different. So you could get a insert charity or organization to come out and run you through the fact sheet of the 10 ways you can recognize signs in your own mental health. It started getting stale already, right? Get one of us out there. We get it, this shit fucking sucks, right? The missus at fucking home, you get home, you got no fucking time left, and then we start rolling in the same 10 things on the sheet. But I think not a lot of people are engaging in the same way as what we plan to do.
Yeah. So, I love that, actually.
We're excited. We're already talking to some of the unions and that.
Oh, you are? Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
that a lot of people are supporting it. They understand the need. So, yeah, we'll roll it out soon.
If your future child one day asks, what does it mean to be a good man? What would you say?
So where did that child come from? Shit. Yeah, look, I'm not going to do kids, I don't think.
I was going to ask you that. Like,
No.
I was going to ask you, no kids?
Look, I used to want them, but a whole bunch of stuff.
There goes that fucking question.
That's a long conversation, but
Oh, yeah.
nothing bad.
Yeah,
but
nothing bad, yeah.
yeah, I just went back and forth with myself. I had all the opportunities in my 20s to do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, didn't happen then, and I'm pretty happy.
Isn't that topic quite taboo in terms of like when people ask you that, you go, no, you don't have kids. Do you get a lot of people go, oh,
Yeah, for sure.
that's fucking weird.
Yeah, like my parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people just assume by default you will.
Yeah.
It's a growing sort of group of people that are choosing not to have kids for so many different reasons, whether it's financial, whether it's they don't want to bring kids
The environment
into this
or whatever it
freaking
is.
world.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more people choosing not to, but it's still not the norm. I don't think anyone means anything bad by it.
No.
Like, everyone kind of treats it like, oh, he's not ready yet, he'll come around. So they don't take it seriously. They're like, oh,
I'm there.
yeah. I'm like, trust me, I thought about this.
So my older brother's the same. He doesn't want kids, which is, I feel it's a little bit of a shame just because he would be such a good father. Like, he's just like, he's one of the best people you ever meet in your life. And I said, well, you're going to be a great uncle then, because he lives out on a farm down in Tasmania, lives off the land, you know, and he's just he's the coolest person, like the great outlook on life. Like, he would be the one like going out like camping and going out hunting and that sort of thing. And I always say that, I was like, Sam, you would actually be such a good dad, but you'll be an amazing uncle. But he wants to adopt. So if he goes, if I do want to have kids, I wouldn't mind adopting. So that was his sort of way around it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'll be a good uncle too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be an uncle. Like, I love Rob's kids and all that. It's just nice to give them back. So.
It's fun when I go to my mate's place and I have two young boys. Oh, sorry, a boy and a girl. And they'll just be screaming at the top of their lungs. However, they're still having normal conversations with me like they can't hear it.
I know.
And I'm like, sorry, what did you say? And they're like talking to me normally. I'm like, can't you hear what's going on? And they're like, oh, you sort of goes down a bit the longer you're around it. I'm like, no, it doesn't.
I'm like, I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I'll come back when they're asleep.
When they're 18. So I've got some quick fire questions to answer. You can answer these as quickly or as long as you want. What are your 3 non-negotiables for living a healthy and full life?
Travel, relationships, and purpose.
Oh, love that. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Casey Neistat. I went to his studio and he told me, make your income match your lifestyle.
Oh, I love that.
Oh.
Hey, who's your hero?
Maybe Casey Neistat or David Attenborough. Love it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What brings you the most joy and fulfillment?
Seeing what I create being used and doing good shit.
If you could go back to a time in your life, where would you go and why?
I wouldn't.
Me too. I don't want to go back.
Nah, the future's looking better than the past.
100%.
Yeah.
I agree. Where are we? What kind of man do you want to be remembered as?
Selfless. And I made impact.
Matty, thank you so much for coming on. You've definitely made impact. There's be more impact in the future for sure. Loved getting to know you on a more personal level as well and having this chat with you, mate. You and your team are doing, incredible things. And I'm really looking forward to what the future holds for you guys.
Thanks for having me on. We'll have to, get you involved in some of our stuff. And
I'd love to, mate.
I think the message resonates across.
Yeah, appreciate it, mate. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Mind Your Head. If you'd like to support the show, be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really supports the show and helps others discover us. Don't forget to join us on Instagram and TikTok at mindyourhead.podcast.